We're continuing our saga. This time we'll tackle the thing that you'll see first with this thing that I've been doing now for a little while. A cover! What cover? The cover for my story, The Black Garden. Now if you're new here, I'm sure you don't know what I'm even talking about. But for the past few months I've slowly been developing the story of mine. Well, more so than I have been for the past, 6 years or so. So, at first I was tackling backgrounds, as far as I can remember at least. Then I tackled character designs, and now we're on the cover, which is obviously the first thing that you see when you decide that you're going to see a story. Now, thank God I'm tackling this, because it was getting slightly embarrassing to use this 2021 that doesn't match this story at all with what I have in mind nowadays. Sure that I did go back to a few of the things that I had in mind back then, just to get a little bit of the essence back of, that sweet little, nostalgic sort of feeling and just the drama. Sometimes you just gotta be a bit silly and different and odd, and just go back to the things that you thought about when you were younger and more insane, I guess. Either way, hello, how are you? Now, I've done covers a few other times in my life, 2 that I can think of from the top of my head, being both of my non-existent comics, for now at least, wink wink, wink wink, wink 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 wink, ooh. That being Who Am I to Love You, Little Miss Future, and Pekluva, Purgatory Corrupted. Making covers is a bit of a tough thing to do because you have to make an illustration that makes sense to the story and, sort of gives that vibe that the story has. Maybe like it has some metaphors of the actual story in there. And it also has to, catch the viewer's eyes and look interesting. Now, I don't know much about catching the viewer's eyes part, but I do know how to make some metaphoric illustrations. I've done that in the past. In fact, I spent 2-3 years of my life just doing that, I guess. So that's what we're going to do today. The idea is, listen to my little list here. 1. Include the main cast, obviously for very obvious reasons. Show the garden that is mentioned in the title, because the title's name is The Black Garden. Add a fantasy-like feeling, because this is a fantasy story, and give it an eerie feeling, because this story isn't exactly cute, it touches on some heavy topics. So I'll be adding the main characters here. Our boy, our man, our favorite drag queen, Soft Elijah Sorrow! And of course, the little fellas, our favorite little devil on our shoulder, Luftan, and of course, that angel that seemingly screams for help. And to integrate the title into this composition that I have going on here, because usually there's the title on the cover, and it usually just sort of flows around. I mean, people do what they do with whatever title that they have, but usually they just sort of slap the title on the cover, and a lot of times, it looks good, but I don't know, I just feel like sometimes it can look a bit too off, in my case at least. I remember that when I did the Little Miss Future covers, because I did a few of them, then I had asked a friend at the time to, tell me which one they preferred, and then they had told me, and I thought, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Either way, I remember that when I was making, the title, the logo of the story and put it there, I just had a lot of trouble making that. I had this idea in mind. I knew what I wanted it to look like. I wanted it to look almost 70s sort of vibe-ish, calligraphy style thingy. I wanted it to have a 70s feeling. If you don't know, Little Miss Future, the character itself used to wear, still does, but she wore a lot of these 70s boho dresses with the bell sleeves and whatnot, so it only made sense that the title itself would also sort of match that. And trying to do that and put it on the cover and make it look good and just trying to calligraphy my way into 70s, font, it was a thing. So for this one, I wanted to integrate the title a little bit better. Obviously, I want to show improvement, right? I've been making covers and for a while. But soon that will change. Either way, That's the idea, at least, right? To integrate it into the actual illustration. So I decided that that angel's floating hair would sort of flow into the title and almost give it like an underline. And I make the angel float over Soft's shoulder, and Loftan sort of pulling him belongs, like below him, because he's tall, right? I mean, no, he's our short king. He's 7'5". Or short little king here. Ooh. So just so that it follows like in a diagonal line across the page, you know, the characters. The title starts at the upper left corner too. Of course, we are in the western part of the world. Everything made so that the viewer's eyes flow across the page. I sort of tried following that. I obviously also intensified line art in certain parts just so that the characters catch more attention than the background. I've been trying to do that a lot recently. I'm pretty sure I did that in many of my recent illustrations. Or better saying, right? So that they don't blend in as much, so that they still have like a focal point in this illustration. I will intensify that later by adding some thin white outlines sort of representing the light hitting them. And since we're talking about backgrounds, why not talk about it fully now, since we're at this stage, I believe. I used my beloved brushes. I downloaded for Krita. My love, my sweet little baby boy. Why is Krita boy now? I have no idea. My Krita's a boy, I guess. For some reason. I always recommend you all not just to download brushes, but also make your own. Why am I saying that I always do that? I literally started recommending it since last video. I always did this, okay? Don't question it. Don't question me. I always told you all to do this. Okay, so please, guys, make your own brushes. And also, guys, be careful not to download brushes that you won't use. I speak of experience, okay? Because we start getting a bit overstimulating and a little bit messy in your little brush folders. Look, things get rough, okay? You want to find a specific brush and you just can't find it. Okay, back to the drawing. My idea was sort of bringing a path down, like they're on a hill, which doesn't really make much sense thinking about where they are in Xelium. Xelium is the fictional country that they live in, by the way. But I put them there so that their walking somewhat makes sense, and also to show the big trees of the garden behind them, because if you didn't know, the Black Garden is, well, actually a little forest. I wanted to make them in a way that the lighter sky, that is, you know, sort of on the bottom part, like imagine a sunset, okay? Imagine the sun sets, so the lighter part of the sky would be on the bottom, and I wanted that part to show in between like the tree branches and tree trunks, just to add like a cool division there. And obviously some plants in the foreground too, to really frame the scene in place. I will intensify that whole like perspective idea by blurring it out later. I do add some clowns going towards the moon there to add some drama to it and make it more mystical. But the moon is a placeholder for now. I actually thought of adding either just a normal moon, as you can see there, with just a slight little detail there, or changing it up later to my initial idea, which is what I end up doing, just so that it gets a little bit more eerie. Because if you saw the sketch, you know I have a different idea in mind. So, you'll see that later. Then I fill in the characters using a nice little useful tool in Krita called Enclose and Fill tool, which basically, when you tweak it a bit, the settings there, it recognizes the line art, if there's a line art layer above the empty layer you're on. And probably if you have a blank background. I'm honestly unsure right now if that is how it works, but probably that is how it works. And it fills the base color where that enclosed line art layer would be. In my case, for some reason, it does it in white, so I have to alpha lock it and put it in as a base color that I can see. Just to see if it actually filled in everything. If it doesn't, I just do it by hand. It's like a few little spots that I missed to enclose the line art properly off, so, it is my fault, so it's like a small little spot anyway, so I can do it. and I find it very useful. It made my workload a lot faster than trying to select stuff and invert selection, and then there's a gap somewhere you didn't see, and then you have to go back and you try to fix that, or you just decide that you want to fill it in like it is and, you know, go by hand, and then you find out that actually it didn't select anything at all and everything was just sort of open. So then what you actually did was enclose the line art, and then you just have like a really thick line art which doesn't really match your illustration, so you have to erase that and do everything by hand. Anyways, I auto-lock that, put my base colors down of the little characters. All of their little color palettes sort of match, but, you know, like, it still has, like, I don't know, its own little thing going on, I guess. And here I'll make sure to use my simpler rendering style, because when I want to bring this story to life, I plan on not dying trying to draw it, because I don't have the energy to try and put every single detail down and try to use my, I don't know, more detailed rendering styles. I'ma just go with my good old usual simple little style, which honestly looks just as good. Also keep in mind that this story's main color is purple, so for my multiply layer I'll use purple. Well, not just for that, but also the overlays as well. Either way, I do have a card side that tells the synopsis for my stories, or well, synopses for my stories, so if you want to know that, you can find them there. I probably have that in my description, in my link tree, which honestly, I did not change it to a card. I was going to, because Linktree decided to use AI in their fucking website, so I have to change that, and I just never got around to it, which is not great for me. I'm sorry. Honestly, is it even worth it? I know that everyone puts just your art everywhere in AI and they just never disclose it to you. And with everyone, I mean every single website and app that you use, okay? So it's like, what is the point even? What is the point? But like, we try to convince ourselves that there is a point, right? Anyways, I'm getting mad. It's not your fault. So if you want to read my synopses, you can find those there. But for this one, I'll read it out to you, okay? So, after losing his mother in his re-election, the president of Xelium, in an outrage, curses God for her death and loses all hope and faith he holds, willingly walking into a death trap only to meet a broken angel looking for someone. That's the premise. I always try to make my synopses as short as possible because I know people hate reading. I don't know why, honestly. That's what puts me in a world-building mood. That and the sun, you know, reading and seeing the sun. Either way, back to the drawing. I'll actually be overpainting here slightly once again, because when was the last time that I did that? I honestly have no idea. But I do that just as a quick way to define certain parts, like certain shadows that are in some folds of the fabric, detail the hair better to define it more, add highlights. For the shadows, I always go cooler in the color wheel so that the purple hues of the background impact the character more, and go warmer for the lighting because, I don't know, lighting usually just in my head is warmer than shadows, I guess, I don't know. I also saturate the shadows more, while for the highlights I desaturate them. If you saturate shadows more, usually at least, it makes the color just seem darker than it actually is. But I don't go ultra saturated, okay? I could, but I don't usually do that. I go like middle, sort of ish. Then I'm pretty sure I add some textures as overlay, just to add more ambience to the illusion of detail. I add like ambience and the illusion of detail. I also did something that I haven't done in a while, which is add loose hair strands by using a new layer with an outline around the brush strokes, which in Krita, I do that by going to layer mode and enabling stroke layer, which is usually the most bottom one, and then fiddling around with that so that it looks right. And I also add normal ones with thinner strands without an outline as well, just to really impact like that hair and, you know, add more detail and more movement. I was actually looking back at some of my drawings from last year and remembered I did that, and it looked like really detailed because I did that, the hair I mean. So I decided to go back and do that again, but trying not to overdo it, because sometimes I just really overdid that, and I looked back and I saw some things and I thought, man, that's a lot. I still wanted this to hold an almost simple look, very clean and well put together. As I said, I want to sort of represent how the story would look, and and I don't want it to look ultra detailed because I don't want to ultra detail my story and then figure out that I can't draw it because it's too much work. Okay? And I want to make it like very clean and well put together, as in how the characters and background are integrated into each other, and very clean, mostly for the rendering part, because sometimes I just get a bit too messy and too painterly. I do integrate them all even more together by adding overlay textures, layers on top of the whole drawing, and just making things more cohesive that way. I do wonder if what I tried doing for the moon actually comes through in my drawing, but I think that it'll be understood more so whenever I actually show you all this story, even though the thing with the moon actually happens at the end of the story, but still, it's like an important part, right? But for now, I'd love you to actually guess what is going on there, because I'm sure that me drawing it out explains it quite well, so if you'd like, you can tell me that in the comments down below. I would love to know, but I like how that's that eerie look that I was going for. That little taste of, something's wrong here. Overall, I'm just really proud of this cover that I made. I'm glad that I got it down, and well, I actually drew the initial concept of it out on my sketchbook, but I didn't record that as always because why would I, right? I'm like, every single time I just think to myself, it's not going to turn out, so why should I even bother recording it, right? So I might as well just like have a nice little relaxing time here and just have my little sketchbook sesh. And then turns out that it turns out how I imagined it, and then I don't have it recorded, so I have to come on here and tell you all that, and you are all like, man, I wish I could have seen that. That would have been like so cool, right? And I just never do that, so my bad, I guess. But yeah, I drew the initial concept of it out in my sketchbook. And instead of actually taking the picture and importing it here like I usually tend to do, I just decided like, I didn't record it, I might as well just draw it out here so that they at least can see the sketching process as well, because it's really boring when you can't see the sketching part of an artist's process, because I feel like that's the coolest part, right? It's just like they have this idea and they're showing you this idea, and then out of nowhere you just see how it turns into a full illustration, so that's cool. So I decided to do just the normal, easy way. Also because I had a bit of doubts and whatnot, I just wanted to experiment and see things. Either way, it turned out great. I love it. And looking at it in comparison to my old covers, I can see the improvement. And honestly, I should remake a cover of my old ones at some point to really put my improvement to the test, so that there is a real side-by-side comparison of like sort of the same story but like a few years apart, because I haven't done story stuff in a while. My idea was actually making a story years ago, but then I, was just too busy and too occupied and everything. And then last year, I could have, technically, but then I was, too busy doing YouTube, which I still am, but I don't know, I think that I can find time now to do more story stuff, so we'll see about that. But I will make a actual comparison side by side of my old little comic covers to my nowadays attempt, I guess. I should honestly remake. I mean, the Little Miss Future one, I'm sure that I shouldn't, because I'm still in the development stage of that story. Yet again, I mentioned that at some point, and I still plan on making that video, which I've been promising for a while now. And that should come out at some point in time, because I'm too scheduled up. I'm way too scheduled. Oh my god. Y'all, I should honestly take a break. But I can't. The grind is too hard, okay? I love grinding, okay? I love grinding. So it'll just have to be for Picluva, I guess. Even I could also make, like, the CRCP one. That's a thing to think about. Honestly, should rename that story. That title is just... It doesn't hit as good as it used to when I was younger. So, either way. I'm just blabbing my ass off here. What was I saying? Where was I? Oh yeah, Picluva. We'll see if I end up getting around to it. At some point here, you should also see me just like sort of merging the characters group together and like auto-locking that, putting it as purple, and like sort of casting their shadow across the little land that they're standing on, just to integrate them more into the background as well, because that helps greatly to the illustration. Either way, I hope you all like the finished result of this drawing, and I hope that you learned something new, maybe with, I don't know, composing some covers. I did do the title off screen. Off screen, off stage, I don't know. Just so that I could have my little time there. I'm not good with calligraphy, okay, so I have to like really sit down and like put my mind to it and just get it down real well and just not try and stress over the fact that I'm recording something and everyone will see my mistakes. Either way, hope you all have a nice day and night, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!